The Child River Center was formed by parents in the mid-50s as part of a national movement to advocate for people with developmental disabilities. The National Arc exists today, and Child River is a local affiliate of the National Arc. One of the major missions of our organization is to help families who are raising kids with developmental disabilities to find solutions to challenges that they have in raising their children. And the Wings for Autism program is an excellent example of the very kind of services that helps find those solutions. Fortunately for us, we found willing partners at Massport. We found partners with the TSA staff at Logan Airport, and quite fortunately had JetBlue Airlines step up with a lot of support for the program. I've been fortunate to witness many of the Wings for Autism events that we've had at Logan Airport, and for me it's very heartwarming to see the family's reaction as they discover in most cases that their kid does fine going through the airport and getting on the airplane. It's like the weight of the world coming off their shoulders. And it's also heartwarming to see the airline personnel, the TSA staff, the airport personnel, the airline itself, the flight attendants, the flight crews, interact so freely and comfortably with people on the autism spectrum. Because it's going to be that kind of education that makes this program so valuable, and that so many families are going to have fewer incidents at an airport because the personnel are familiar with kids on the autism spectrum.
Welcome to Autism Awareness for Airport Personnel. Our goal in this video is to give you basic awareness information about autism and how that will play out in your job in the airport industry. We hope that by creating more awareness throughout the travel industry, that children and adults with autism disorders will be able to have a better and safer travel experience. Autism is a neurological condition. It affects communication, social interaction, and leisure skills. And it's really important to know that there's a wide variety of ways that these kids present themselves.
It was first diagnosed in the medical literature in 1943, so it hasn't been around that long as a formal concept. And it's really characterized by 3 different symptom domains. The one that's probably most central is impaired social relatedness. So people that may not know how to do the mechanics of social interaction may or may not have a desire to have social interaction. The other major area is communication. So they may have disturbances in verbal communication as well as problems with nonverbal communication like eye contact. About 30 to 40% of people with autism will never speak throughout their entire life, but others can be quite verbal.
Not every child is the same. Some children communicate verbally and are able to answer questions with their speech. Others use devices such as an iPad or sign language. Some even just use simple pictures that they will hand to somebody to communicate what they need and what they want. And it's important to realize when working with these children that not every child is going to be the same. Not every child is going to be able to answer questions, and not every child is not going to be able to. So it's important to really take the time to understand each individual child separately.
The third area is repetitive ritualistic behavior. A lot of people call this obsessive compulsive disorder or OCD, but it's really quite different. We know that people with OCD are worried about dirt and germs and wash their hands a lot. They're worried about safety, so they're checking locks and things. People with autism have repetitive behavior, things like hand flapping, rocking, spinning objects, lining things up, that kind of thing. So very, very different from OCD.
Things like jumping, spinning, flapping their arms, those are all just part of them trying to make sense of their world, and they're not misbehaving in any way.
So other signs and symptoms that people with autism have that may not be part of the formal criteria are behavioral symptoms. So they might have motor hyperactivity that looks like a child with ADHD. They may have difficulty focusing or inattention. And in autism, it's not called ADHD, even though it might look like ADHD. But this could become a problem with regard to a child darting away from parents or family members.
Some other behaviors that you see in these children are things like wandering or bolting behaviors. Tends to occur when there's a large open space, which we see a lot in things like airports and schools. These kids will go directly for the open space. And another characteristic of autism that makes that so dangerous is that many of these kids have a lack of safety awareness, where they don't know when there's danger and when there isn't danger, and they may run into oncoming traffic, they may run into the ocean or a pool when they don't have effective swimming skills. So that lack of safety awareness combined with this ability to run away can be very dangerous in certain situations.
The employees at the airport are going to need to be mindful of that. These kids are quick. What you don't want to do is go after the child or adult like you might someone who's escaping from a criminal event. These aren't criminals. If you go after them and you try to restrain them, they're not going to like that. They're going to feel like they're going to escalate their behavior. So it's going to be very important that the people understand the behaviors differently than they might in a typically performing person.
Some of these children will wear tracking devices. It looks almost like an ankle bracelet monitor that could be on an ankle or a wrist. Some actually have them built into their shoes that you wouldn't even notice. But these devices are designed to, if the child does bolt or wander away, the family is able to find them with this device. So that's something to be aware of when encountering these children, that they may have that ability to have that tracking device on them. Some other characteristics we see with these children is inflexibility with routines. A lot of these kids and adults are very routine driven, and they follow a very strict schedule every single day. They have trouble when things change in that schedule. They have trouble waiting when something isn't happening when they're expecting it to. This inflexibility with routines and that trouble with waiting creates anxiety and creates problems when those things come up, where in an airport setting would be very difficult for them. Parents have to prepare them well ahead of time that there's going to be a change in their routine that day. There's also this whole experience before they even get to the airport. That experience is, one, the change in routine, maybe the change in time that they woke up that morning. They might be taking a form of transportation they've never taken before, such as a train, a cab, a limo. That's something new to them. They may have to pack all of their favorite possessions and clothes and don't necessarily understand that that's coming with them. So there's already this heightened anxiety in these kids and adults before they even walk into the airport terminal.
If I imagine myself going to an airport, right, what are the things that are really going to start bothering me right away if I have autism? Standing in line. I don't want to stand in line, so I may not be very patient. After that, you've got putting all your stuff on the conveyor belt. Well, what if they have a favorite something that they always carry with them at all times, and they even take it to bed with them, and it's something that the airline would want to screen? You might run into some trouble with that. They may not want to give it to you. That might lead to a temper tantrum.
These behaviors are not meant to be them being bad kids. They are not meant to be them being aggressive towards anybody. This is due to their lack of ability to communicate. They can't communicate effectively that they're upset, they're anxious, they're nervous, whatever it is, and so it tends to present itself behaviorally.
The person may fall to the floor and start screaming and yelling and kicking, and everybody in the airport's going to be looking at that person. And the way you guys could be helpful is to say, well, this is a person with autism. This isn't, number one, this isn't due to the bad parenting. Because a lot of people are right away say, don't you know how to control your child? And they're looking at the parent, and the parent feels terrible because they're not they don't have control over their child. So right there, it's kind of everybody slow down, don't get excited.
Step back, let the parents or person traveling with them handle it, and just be understanding and be sympathetic with the family that's trying to get somewhere.
But you may have to substitute something with this child. To get that, you might have to give him something else. Now you want the child to go through the metal detector, and they might have a very difficult time going through that at the pace you want them to go through. They don't understand maybe what fast or slow means. They understand stop or go. So they may run through that thing fast, or you say, here, you have to stand here for 30 seconds to put your hands like that. That may not happen. So one thing that would cross my mind is if that just doesn't work, well, you guys always have the ability to use that wand to check somebody. They may find that to be fascinating, actually. So rather than have it as some kind of scary security thing, engage them in it. Maybe it's like a Star Wars wand or something. You're going to have to introduce something that's interesting to them to allow them, for them to allow you to do it. So now you're through there and you're in a big hallway that's chaotic and people, and it's echoing.
A lot of children and adults with various autism spectrum disorders have sensory integration issues. What that means is that they process sensory information differently than the typical person would. This means noises might sound louder to them, or something might feel painful to them that isn't to somebody else.
Many, if not most people with autism have a noise supersensitivity, and it can be extreme. It can cause pain in their ear, and they'll hear things we don't hear, and things we hear normally might be overwhelming to them. So you're going to see some people with autism wearing headphones.
A lot of these kids may cover their ears, or they may wear headphones to protect them from that amplified noise that they hear. They often will have the big noise canceling ones when they travel. That helps prevent them from being overstimulated by the echoes, by the loud noises.
And you may think it's like connected to an iPod, or they're trying to look like the airplane pilot or something like that. They're wearing this to avoid anxiety and then behavioral problems.
These sensory concerns are one of the main characteristics we see in children with autism, and so most likely when you encounter these children and adults, they are going to have some of those issues. So avoiding grabbing or touching one of these children if you don't need to is the best way to handle some of them, and be aware that if they are wearing headphones or they are covering their ears, you may not be speaking loudly, but it may be sounding loud to them. So just being understanding and taking a little more time is the best way to handle some of those issues.
What we like to tell the parents about is that their child, try not to have the child wear those before they get through security, because then they're going to have to take it off and they may not like that. So try to wait until you get through security to put the headphones on. But you may encounter this. Parents may not be thinking about that. They're going to have to take them off, I imagine, to get through security. But be sensitive to that it's not just, oh, that's not a big deal. They're just listening to music. No, this is something they're trying to do to prevent anxiety. Now you're through security and you're on the airplane. This person, if it's a long flight, they may need to get up and move around a little bit. So I think they might like the flight attendants. They might like to go for a little walk, but you might have to be kind of like their big sister or something, or their grandmother, and walk them around a little bit, and don't just say, well, I don't do that, it's not my job. Well, these kids are cute and you're going to like them, so take them for a little walk. They may, you might have to give them a little more attention with regard to snacks and things. Instead of one round, maybe they need another round. So another thing that a flight attendant might do, it might take a little extra time, but it might avoid problems down the line that are going to take more time, is this child is maybe very interested in the bathroom. And you might want to take them in there and show them the toilet. Now, some of these guys really like to flush the toilet and just stare at the water going down. This is going to look different, and when you hear that flushing sound, it sounds like there's a hole open to the outside. So you might want to have them see that and experience it with you when you're still on the ground instead of in real time, and when you're going to create a lot of anxiety. That's something that I'd recommend highly. One other thing that I think might be interesting is take the time and allow the child to go up to the cockpit before the plane takes off, because a lot of them are into electronics and gadgets and building things. And if you can open that door and let them look in there and see all those lights and those knobs and things, they may think that's pretty cool. And you might say, you know, if you do really well on this flight, then when we're done, you can look in there again and the pilot wants you to come back and say hello. So really get them engaged. You're not going to probably have more than one child with autism on any flight. You might, but you're probably not. So to spend a little bit of extra time with that person is going to help to prevent some crises that could occur 30,000 feet.
So how are you supposed to recognize these families? How are you supposed to know who they are? What we've done with creating Wings for Autism is we've created a logo that families who have children or adults traveling with them that have autism or related disorders will be able to wear, and that will identify them as a family that needs some extra support, as a family that may need a little extra attention. The goal in doing this with the logo is so that families don't have to tell every single person they encounter that they have a child with special needs, but rather they just wear a small symbol that everybody will recognize and know that that is a family that needs more support. Families who participate in any of the Wings for Autism events are able to get these logos in pin or sticker format so that they can wear it when they travel, so that all the airport personnel are able to recognize them and are able to appropriately deal with them.
Well, the community effort is amazing. The helping these families that don't have the opportunity to travel to see if they can is so important, and the give back is just fantastic.
Yeah, I learned a lot about autism today. It was something that I wasn't that familiar with prior to this event, and I learned about you know, really how there's such a wide range of ability for the different kids and ages as well. A lot of difference in that as well, but overall the enthusiasm was striking, that they absolutely, everybody was just thrilled to get up there and see what the cockpit of a big airplane's like.
Helping these families and seeing the response of them be able to travel as a family unit and traverse the airport itself is great.
We had attempted to fly on an airplane once before. It was very, very difficult, and I felt as if we had a program like this, when I heard about this program, I was so excited about it because it was exactly what we needed. Brittany needs to, you know what to expect beforehand, and they provided a wonderful opportunity for that.
To understand the families with difficulty, what they're going through, to do something with some sense of normalcy, some sense of pride, without having to explain away who's on the spectrum, is my goal for this.
Try to empathize with the family and don't act like the rest of the world, because you're here to help people. You're specially trained, and I think it's really wonderful that people with autism you're being exposed to these people now, because they're part of society, and there's more and more people with autism, so it's time that everybody begin to learn and try to help them exist in our world.
Thank you for taking the time to watch the Autism Awareness for Airport Personnel training today. Hope that you've gained some useful information that you can take back to your job somewhere in the airport industry. And hopefully you'll be able to participate in one of our Wings for Autism events very soon.